Before I jump into this topic, I invite you to center yourself with me. Let's do about 3 deep breaths, holding and releasing deep in our stomach so we can make space for understanding and we can make space for feeling. Thank you. The sun is shining on me as confirmation. So despite all the noise and chaos that surrounds us, we always have the connection to our own inner peace. Remember that. Let's do another one. And eventually it subsides. Last one. All right, let's get started. I've been wanting to express this message or this revelation, if you will, for a minute now. And it's really something that I had during the beginning of cancer season, where it just all sort of kind of made sense. Because when we think about the archetype cancer, cancer represents the mother. It represents the maternal, the moon, our ancestral lineage. So I am in a current space. I might even call it a test, if you will. And that is one of embodying my authentic self fully and completely. And a part of me embodying my authentic self is embodying my restrictions, my no's, my don'ts, and my sort of like social limitations when it comes to certain people, places, and things. As a former people pleaser, I was conditioned to feel like everyone is allowed to have access to me at all times, even when I don't want to have access to other people. And this would look like having conversations I didn't want to have, feeling the need to surround myself with people that I didn't want to, and always just having like this underlying guilt whenever I would set a boundary with people. And a large part of like that healing is getting to the root of that guilt wound and affirming myself and letting myself know that it is okay for me to have boundaries. It is okay for me not to be interested. It is okay for me not to want to be someone's friend or to not see the good in every single person. And I think, as you know, people pleasers is where you go wrong as a people pleaser, because in your heart and in your stomach in your intuition, you know when certain people are good for you and when they're not good for you, certain situations are. But when it comes to people pleasing, it's like your bias, your judgment is so obscure because you have this fixation, almost this obsession, on making other people feel value above you. And so in this test, in this season of embracing my authentic self, I have been getting triggered left and right of people who do not speak to me, people who do not resonate with me, people who do not resonate with my morals, with my principles. And the old people pleaser in me wants to still hold space for these people, but this new version of myself that I'm stepping into knows good and goddamn well that I don't need to, right? So I'm in a space where I have to interact with a group of people on almost a daily basis that display characteristics that don't align with me. And that's fine, it's normal. We are always going to be in spaces where we might encounter with energies that don't resonate with us, energies that are off-putting to us, and we have the right to create energetic boundaries around ourselves where we're not necessarily always being influenced by these external energies. And we also have the right to just say absolutely not. Like, I'm not going to engage with this person. I don't have to be friends with you. I don't have to be, on a speaking basis with you. Like, we have that right as spiritual beings. And I think that where we get lost at with this whole love and like thing and this whole spirituality thing is that we feel like we have to accept everybody, and we don't. And that's really the first true lesson of a people pleaser, is that you do not have to accept everybody. You do not have to make space for everybody, right? And in that, if you not needing to accept everybody and you not needing to make space for people, and I am in no way, shape, or form condoning bigotry or any sort of biases or phobias. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about in general, when somebody's energy or does not mesh well with yours, and it's not rooted in jealousy, it's not rooted in envy, it's not that they are triggered to you because you're intimidated by them. I'm just saying, cut and dry, your energy does not mesh well with another person or a group of people. So with me, again, as a former people pleaser and working my way through that and cutting that core of people pleasing, I am being tested on amongst people that I do not care for, amongst people that I know that is not an energetic match with me, is to still stand in my full authentic nature and to create boundaries with these people, but to also feel safe with being myself, feel safe in my fullest expression. And for a while, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to, feel good about my no without feeling guilt, without feeling like, oh, I'm being a bitch, or oh, I'm being standoffish, when I know my reason and I know my why. And I'm just like, damn, I can't find a way to, really feel good about my reasoning for not wanting to be bothered with these people. And in general, is something that, again, that I struggle with. And so one day I was just sitting, and it just came to me. I thought about my mother, and me and my mother, we didn't really have the best relationship growing up due to ancestral trauma, due to the things that, her mother inflicted upon her and my great-grandmother inflicted upon, that cycle of it. I don't think it's expressed enough is that, the trauma that we endure from our maternal is engraved in our DNA because of the womb, because of our physical makeup. So when your grandmother was pregnant with your mother was pregnant with you. So whatever your grandmother endured, whatever your mother dealt with while she was in your grandmother's womb, you dealt with that too. Because as a female fetus, we already are, when we're in the womb, we already have 1 million eggs already. As we are coming into development in our mother's womb, so is our eggs are coming into development, and they're growing and growing. And so by the time we are out of the womb, we very well are already impregnated with our future children. It just hasn't, it didn't happen yet, that sperm meeting the egg, that didn't happen yet, but we are still existing in that womb space. So that's where that ancestral trauma is coming through, and that's when we are, everyone is chosen to do the work, everyone is chosen to heal the trauma. But, when we are having these revelations and we're working through ourselves, we're actually healing things that didn't really start with us. It started with our foremothers. But I feel like a lot of that time when we speak about our foremothers and we speak about that, what we have gained and learned from them, sometimes it's always in this negative way of what I just expressed of painful trauma. But there's also positive traits, and there's also survival mechanisms, and there's also love and joy and confidence that was also instilled in us while we were in this shared womb space. And the whole purpose of this video is to encourage you to embody the strength of your mother. So anyway, so going back to this moment of where I just thought about my mother in a situation. I thought about, what would my mom do in this situation? And it's rare for me because I never think about, what would my mother do? I never call on my mother in that way, right? And so I thought about it, and I'm like, well, what would my mother do if she was in my shoes, and if she was in the space that I'm in right now? And the first thing I thought was like my mother wouldn't give a fuck. And it came to me that my mother wouldn't give a fuck because of how authentic my mother is. And I thought back to all the situations, all the hard times that my mother endured, and how she never strayed away from herself. Like, my mom stands 10 toes on her principles. She stands 10 toes on her beliefs. She stands 10 toes on who she is. She is someone who knows herself very well, and it can be off-putting to others. Her delivery can sometimes be harsh. She almost reminds me of the Queen of Swords card, right? That very blunt, very straightforward, queen archetype, but it's always from a place of love, and it's from a place of deeper understanding. And that really deeper understanding is just like, I know who I am, so it's just like, I'm saying this to you because I'm not confused about myself. I'm not confused about my feelings. I'm not confused about my emotions. I'm not confused about why I feel how I feel. And so when I started to think about my mom, and I just think about like how she always shows up as her authentic self no matter what, like she's not afraid to wear it all, like she just wears herself. And when I thought about that, I was like, wow. So the next time I'm in this situation where I find myself amongst this group of people that I don't mesh well with, that I don't resonate with, and that is completely fine, it is okay, and it's time for me to set a boundary with these people, I will embody the strength of my mother. Watch my mother be true to her authentic self. I have watched my mother navigate spaces. I have watched my mother stand 10 toes down and stand firmly in who she is and what she believes, and confidently and well. And so it made me think about other situations, hard times specifically, and I think about my mother, and I think about what would my mother have done. And in every situation when I think about it, my mother would have been proud of herself. My mother would have been proud of her situation. My mother would have known that it would get better. And so I invite you to embody the strength of your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother in trying times, in uplifting times, especially in moments where you feel like you need to assert yourself, in moments where you feel like you need to set boundaries, in moments that you may feel like you need to even express your joy, even to feel confident, because I think that's what the maternal brings. The maternal brings a confidence. It brings a true self-acceptance, because it is all being. The maternal is the creatrix. What would exist without the maternal? The maternal is the mother, is the womb, it's the creator, it's the empress. And in that, we should feel dignified. And there are going to be times when we don't feel that. And whatever your practices are when you are dealing with self-doubt or insecurities, or feel like you need to set a boundary. And even when we think back to like the mother archetype, and maybe if you didn't have this kind of mother, but when we think about if somebody's picking on you when you was in school or teasing you, and you would go back and you would tell your mom, or you may go tell your auntie or your big sister. So you don't necessarily have to embody the strength of your mother if you don't have that kind of relationship with your mother, but embody the strength of the maternal figure in your life that you always looked up to, that you admire. Embody the strength of that person who was your confidant and who was your protector in moments where you may feel weak or you may feel disempowered and you don't know how to get yourself out of it. Literally embody them. What would such and such do in this case? And you might even need to pick up the phone and call them. But if you are not in that space too, you may not have that resource to or the time to. And it's moments like those spirit of the moment things. It's like, I'm going to embody and call on the strength of such and such. And I encourage you to do that as well when it comes to your ancestors. If you have a connection with somebody beyond the grave who was in a very empowered being, call on them. And so ever since I've had like that revelation and that acceptance, it has just made things a little bit easier in terms of saying no, a little bit easier of like, okay, you're about to people please, and you need to think about your mother, who damn sure is not a people pleaser. You need to tell like it is in this instance. You need to be okay with your no, and you need to stand firm in it. And even in like I want to say like possible quote unquote disadvantages are things that we may really disadvantages I feel like are things that we just feel insecure about. And even in those insecurities, like I'm feeling insecure about this, but I'm going to embody the strength of such and such because I know how well she carries it. I know how well she wears it. And when we are in connection and we are allowing ourselves to absorb and to be students of the wisdom and the strength and the power of the maternal, we are building ourselves up so that we then can be that mirror for another, woman, another man, another non-binary person who may need to embody that strength. And so it's just a transmission of just this uplifting energy that we can continue to like having a cycle in which I'm passing it to this person, this person is passing it back to me. So I invite you in a moment of maybe you're scared, you're feeling down, you're not ready, even if you may have like some blockages with your throat chakra where you need to have an uncomfortable conversation with somebody and you just don't know how you want to muster that strength up, and it's okay to not have it inside you. I want you to embody the strength of your mother. And when I say mother, I'm going to just use it as an umbrella term of the archetype of the divine feminine in your life. Who you see as the divine feminine in your life, who embodies that energy of the divine feminine, I want you to call on them and I want you to channel them. So sit with this message. Let me know if you integrate it. Let me know, your thoughts on this. And yes, thank you for watching.